The cold wind of North Dakota cut across the Badlands like a blade sharpened by time itself. It screamed through the canyons and over the ridges, carrying with it a kind of silence that warned sensible people to bar their doors and stay inside. This was not a night meant for mercy. Yet on this night, a woman stood tied to an old cottonwood tree. Her wrists were bound tight with coarse rope, the fibers cutting into skin already split and bleeding. Her boots dragged uselessly against frozen dirt as she fought to stay upright. Every breath scraped her lungs raw. Her voice, once sharp, once strong, had faded into nothing more than a hoarse whisper lost to the wind. Her name was Susan Thornton, and she believed she was going to die in the Badlands. The cottonwood creaked behind her, ancient and bent, its bare branches rattling like bones in the dark. The cold seeped deeper with every passing minute, stealing heat, stealing strength, stealing hope. Coyotes cried somewhere far off, their voices thin and hungry. But long before Susan Thornton ended up strapped to that tree, her trouble had already begun. That morning had started like every other hard day on Cottonwood Creek Ranch. Susan drove her battered flatbed truck along the dirt road that cut through her land, knuckles white as she fought the steering wheel. The wind shoved the truck sideways, sand and grit rattling against the windshield like buckshot. The Badlands weren't just land to her, they were an enemy that never stopped testing her. At 28, Susan was strong in a way that didn't come from muscle alone. She was sharp, stubborn, and smarter than most men she'd ever crossed paths with. She had learned early that the world didn't hand things to women like her, not ranches, not respect, and certainly not mercy. Her father had left her Cottonwood Creek Ranch when he died. A legacy, people called it. They never mentioned the debt. Every fence post that leaned, every roof that leaked, every bill that arrived stamped in red felt like a weight pressing down on her chest. She woke each morning with that weight and carried it until nightfall. Her only remaining hope grazed in the northern pasture. Sunfire. Golden-coated and flawless, Sunfire was the last pride of the Thornton bloodline. A mare bred from champions, worth more than Susan's truck, her house, and maybe even the land beneath her boots. The Dakota Breeders' auction was scheduled for the next morning. Selling Sunfire would hurt worse than any broken bone. But it might save the ranch from foreclosure. Susan stepped out of the truck and leaned against the fence, staring across the pasture. Sunfire stood in the fading afternoon light like something painted by God himself, her coat glowing gold against the gray land. When the mare lifted her head and saw Susan, her ears flicked forward, eyes soft with trust. Susan swallowed hard and rested her hand against the fence. "This is it, girl," she whispered. "Tomorrow you save the ranch." Trouble didn't come only from debt. Trouble came with a slick smile and a brand new black pickup truck. Andrew Macy. His ranch lay to the east, a massive corporate spread that swallowed smaller operations whole. He dressed clean, spoke smooth, and wore sympathy like a mask. For months, he had circled Susan like a wolf waiting for the snow to slow its prey. Every time he offered help, she felt trapped. And beside him, always silent, always watching, stood Marcus Grit Ryland. Wide-shouldered and stone-faced, Grit moved with a dangerous stillness. He handled animals like they were broken tools, not living creatures. His eyes never softened. Susan trusted the warning that crawled up her spine whenever he was near. She kept her distance from both men. She didn't know yet that distance wouldn't save her. The Badlands held more than greedy men. They held a legend. Cipher. A massive jet-black wild stallion who ruled the ridges like a king. Locals whispered about him in low voices. Some said he was a phantom. Some claimed he was cursed. But everyone agreed on one thing. He was too smart. Cipher broke fences without touching them, lured mares away, and vanished before anyone could corner him. Susan had chased him off her land more than once. He tested her fences. She tested his patience. She respected him. And feared the trouble he brought. Sunfire had been moved closer to Cipher's territory. One mistake could cost Susan everything. The mistake came with a ping from her phone. A motion camera alert. Susan pulled over and stared at the screen. The image showed the northern fence, cut clean through. Not bent. Not pushed. Cut. In the background, a dark shape moved toward the canyon. Fear hit her like a punch to the gut. That pasture held Sunfire. Susan didn't hesitate. She grabbed her tools, her father's old .38, and saddled Sunfire herself. The sky burned orange as she rode north, the wind slapping her face raw, dread pounding in her chest. The cottonwood tree stood alone at the broken fence line, bent with age. The wire lay severed. Wrong. Cipher didn't cut fences. Susan tied Sunfire to a low branch and went to work fast, hands shaking as she pulled wire tight. The pasture was too quiet. The kind of quiet that crawled under skin. Hoofbeats approached. Slow. Steady. Confident. Susan turned. Two riders crested the ridge. Andrew Macy. Clean. Smiling. Grit Ryland behind him, silent as death. Her hand moved toward her gun. She didn't get far. Grit was off his horse in a blur. His grip crushed her arm. She fought, but his fist slammed into her head, and the world spun sideways. The rope burned as it wrapped her wrists. She was shoved against the cottonwood. Helpless. Macy stroked Sunfire's neck like the mare already belonged to him. "She's mine now," he said. Susan begged. He smiled and rode away, taking everything she had left. The night closed in. Cold. Silence. Hours passed. Her strength faded. And then, a shape appeared on the ridge. Black. Massive. Silent. Cipher. The stallion moved like a shadow given form. Coyotes vanished as he approached. His breath steamed in the freezing air. He sniffed the rope. Snorted. Then bit down hard. Susan screamed as pain shot through her arms. Cipher pulled again. And again. The rope snapped. Susan collapsed into the dirt. Cipher didn't leave. He pressed his body against hers, forcing her to move, guiding her through the dark toward distant ranch lights. When coyotes howled, he turned to face them, stamping once in warning. They scattered. All night, he kept her alive. Dawn broke pale and weak. Ben found her. Cipher stood on the ridge watching, then vanished. Susan survived. And the truth burned hot. Macy hadn't just stolen Sunfire. He'd been hunting Cipher. At the Dakota Breeders' Auction, Susan walked in bruised, broken, unbowed. She exposed Macy. She named Cipher. The sheriff arrived. Grit broke. Macy fell. Justice came down hard. Sunfire was returned. 2 days later, the ranch became legend. Cipher was confirmed as the lost Xanadu Cross descendant. Susan's debt vanished. But one rule stood. Cipher stayed free. 3 months later, Cottonwood Creek Ranch thrived. One evening, Susan rode Sunfire along the ridge. Cipher stood watching. She raised her hand. He tossed his mane and vanished into the Badlands. Forever untamed. Forever watching. And Susan rode home, stronger than ever.